Hello, hello. It's time to play some vintage. We're gonna take this list, which is 75 of the 75 that I played this weekend in the vintage challenge. We top forward. It's not actually that much different from typical vintage lists, a typical vintage PO list anyways. It's very similar to the European style Esper mana bases, where you have, a set of fetch lands and then 4 dual lands. This time we're supporting an even split between black and green to play a bunch of different one-of powerful green and black cards. The same Demonic Tutor Yogwell that we've been playing recently, and then also a Night's Whisper and a Sylvan Library for card draw. Mana Gorger Hydra is our budget kind of Mentor replacement. It's not good. It's not as good as Mentor, but it does win some games that Mentor doesn't, and I think that it's fine to have in the deck because I think it's worse for one of these tropical islands to end up being a Tundra. I think the 4th color is too much. I already think 3 colors is pushing it, just only for the sole reason that Shops exists. If Shops didn't exist in the format, I think you could push these 4 color mana bases pretty hard. But because Shops exist, I want to have tons of basics, and I just don't. We also have a Leovold with maybe Break the Mirror. Another one in the sideboard to break the mirror. Then you have a typical PO sideboard, except for the glaringly obvious 2 Abrupt Decay, which is this deck's answer to Stony Silence and Null Rod. Instead of trying to grind out those matchups, we're going to try to have an uncounterable spell to blow up their Stony Silences, and then as another way to get rid of the Null Rod. Obviously, it serves multiple uses when it can kill smaller shops, targets Monastery Mentor, Young Pyromancer, Survival of the Fittest. The one thing, of course, it does not kill is Bazaar of Baghdad, and so that's like an upside to having Assassin's Trophy in this slot. However, the uncounterable part is really, really big here because the blue Stony Silence decks are typically very favored versus us. And so this is a way to get rid of Stony Silence that can actually resolve. That's really the only things going on different in this deck to comparison to other different PO variants we've tried. Like the Euro PO is very similar with 4 dual lands and some black spells, and then the white spells on the board. Very similar to some other PO lists I've tried, like this red one, where it's a couple red spells, 4 dual lands. It's very similar. It's even similar to the other green list I tried, where I really wanted to play Sylvan Library, because I think it's actually the best of these 2-drop draw spells. But you really only want 1, which is a little awkward. But, I don't know. Without further ado, I think that's a pretty reasonable explanation of what's different in this deck compared to normal PO. And we'll just hop in a league. And then as we wait, because this is vintage, we're going to have to wait. We can maybe think about a couple more things that we're not doing that we could be doing. 1 repeal, 1 dig, no cruise, no gush. Still think Gush is bad if you're not playing Dak Faden. And Gush is definitely bad when you're not playing Monastery Mentor. Now, Gush isn't a bad card and isn't even typically super bad in the deck. I just think it's a lower impact card in this deck than other decks for Gush. Same goes for Cruise. I think, in my opinion, this deck can really house 2 graveyard spells. So either pick one of the 2, dig, cruise, pick one of the 4, I guess. Dig, cruise, Yawgmoth's Will, and Snapcaster Mage is like half 1. So you'll see in like my typical blue list, we play dig, will, and a Snapcaster, and I think that's like the max you can fit in here. And dig is obviously better than cruise because we are a combo deck. We're looking to find combo pieces. I think you could also reasonably play no will, dig, and cruise. Then I don't think you want to play a Snapcaster. If you're playing 2 of the Delve spells, I think you don't want to play a Snapcaster Mage. A lot of risks have been playing 2 repeal. I kind of like it. I kind of don't. The card doesn't do very much. And a lot of the times when it's in your hand, obviously it cycles, but sometimes it doesn't even cycle. When you're playing against shops, a lot of the time it doesn't actually cycle. And so the second repeal, I think, is overkill, but we'll have to continue testing it. I know that a lot of the experienced vintage pilots are on 2 repeals at the moment, and I just don't know if that's correct. Still on 3 opals. I've been playing a Lotus Petal, which is not something I was playing in my previous PO lists, but I think it's like, it acts almost like the 4th Mox Opal, but without the downside of being awful with other Mox Opals. No, not me. I played some serious vintage Magic this weekend, and we did very well. And so I think we're going to try to run it back and see if we can learn anything more. I didn't get to play a very wide range of decks this weekend. I played against mostly shops and Jeskai and a bug list. And that was it. So we didn't play against any survival. We didn't play against any dredge. So I really want to play some more matches, because I really do think that at the very least, Sylvan Library was an A+. Abrupt Decay was an A-. Gorger was a B-. Leovold was like a C+. Even though I played a ton of mirrors, the Leovold didn't come up very much. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because it's a 1-of and I didn't draw it. But it came up with, oh, why didn't I hear the sound? This is the worst outcome. No. How do I need this to appear over here, and then I need to load this. Alright, now I have it on the side screen, so I can't miss it anymore. That's unfortunate. I mean, typically, yes, when we play serious PO decks on stream in leagues, we get absolutely run over, but maybe tonight will be different. Alright, we got a match. We're playing against our good buddy Red Loose. I forget what he was on exactly. Is this the Dragon player? I think it might be the Dragon player. Either way, for the VOD viewers, round 1 of a Vintage League with green paradoxical outcome. Let's do this. Yeah, I mean, Tinker Blightsteel on turn 1 is like a pretty vintage thing we can be doing. We definitely, yeah, you missed the explanation, but we definitely don't want Trophy over Decay. The uncounterable part is very, very important versus blue Stony Silence decks, and that is the main reason Decay is in the board, is for Stony Silence and No Rod. That's basically the same thing I've been telling everyone. The additional range you get off Assassin's Trophy is not worth losing uncounterable in specifically this deck. So let's see what our opponent's working with here. Maybe a misstep. So we do have the Dragon deck, but he doesn't have very much going on. He's got a turn 1 Jace, which will save him from getting killed from the Blightsteel right away, but he doesn't have any interaction, so we are just going to murder this man with a large infecting Colossus. It actually might not even save him if we draw a Mox, because then we can repeal his Jace. I'm just going to go look and see what we can find before we do this. These cards are both bad for us. It's not exactly bad for us, because we could always will back the Lotus later, but in general, it's just not really needed. So we're going to put a Blightsteel into play and see if our opponent can beat it. Classic Vintage Magic the Gathering. So he can't really go on his classic library on the draw plan. It's very likely he just plays a Mox and an Island. Oh. Alright, he's gonna go in looking for a Lotus, it sounds like. Which is a reasonable line. I think it might be even a better line than playing his Jace. Alright, we won game 1. And this is why we played Tinker Blightsteel. Granted, we drew Black Lotus on turn 1. I see that. But stealing games in Magic, I think, is very important. I think having your deck have the ability to steal games is like, oh, it's really important. We definitely want the Leovold versus the Bazaar deck. It's still really awkward with Flusterstorm. Not the biggest fan, but it's definitely better than Hercules. And I don't really think I like Repeal because of how it interacts with stopping the Animate Deads. I think Tinker Blightsteel is still fine versus him. I'd like to board it out in most of the blue matchups, but we'll have to see. He looks like he changed up his list a little bit, so we're gonna have to see what he's packing tonight. I don't really care about a Mana Gorger Hydra here, so I think we're gonna just put the Mana Gorger Hydra away. We could think about boarding in some cages. I don't mind that. Let's board in some cages. We'll take out Yawgmoth's Will, and we'll take out one more card. I don't know. All of these seem reasonable. Shave of Preordain. Let's try running with this. It seems like his deck is a little less all-in than we last saw it, so we'll have to see if that's actually the case. This hand's so close to being good. If one of these if this Ruby or Jet was a Sapphire, this hand's just sweet. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and I don't really see. If we probed his hand and saw such an all-in deck like the last few times we played him, I think it maybe could keep it. But because we saw some things like JVP and Gush and stuff, I think that's like maybe a little greedy. So we're gonna mulligan this away. This hand's much better than the last hand, and we're just really a PO away from just killing him. A Dig Through Time. That's interesting. We are going to be able to cast Preordain and fetch land and then have 4 mana later. 4, 5, 6. It's still a little short of a Dig Through Time. But I don't really hate having a Dig Through Time here. I think we're going to leave this one on top, and I'm not sure that's 100% correct. This is one of my big problems with Dig Through Time. I have 2 big problems with Dig Through Time in the deck. One, it costs blue. Blue is actually not that easy to make. That's an interesting one. Didn't know he played top. Blue is not the most easy to make in this deck, and against shops it's actually quite difficult to make. And then we have the problem of we don't really fill up the graveyard unless we're chaining Preordains. Here I have an Emerald. I'm not very worried about a Wasteland, so I'm going to grab the Underground Sea. We'll definitely lead off with this Preordain. Those cards are actually unreal. So we can cast Time Walk this turn, and then PO on the next turn. So we're drawing pretty good tonight. I can say that much. I'm going to lead with the Cage here, and if it draws a Mindbreak Trap, it draws a Mindbreak Trap. I'm not too worried if it does or not. We can't cast Time Walk with it. We can't play around Mindbreak Trap no matter what, because we have to play it with all these Moxen. This turn anyways. So this is a card that he doesn't really want in play. Oh, he has a Misstep. Okay. That's fine. Time Walk, and then he has to have a Force of Will on the next turn to stop a 3-card PO, which is 3-card PO is about where you want to be to start POing. So see if he has a Force of Will. He does have a Force of Will. Wow. Force of Will pitching Jace. Okay. Yeah, man. That's good stuff. So, yeah, his deck is definitely more controlling than the last time we played it. It seems he's very much been iterating on it. Very happy we kept our Dig Through Time. It's going to allow us to, refuel. We ended up with a bunch of cards in the yard. A bunch of cards we don't exactly want to get rid of. But because we have our Will in the graveyard, or in our sideboard now, it doesn't actually hurt us because we're not playing a Snapcaster, and this is our only graveyard interaction. So we can actually just get rid of them all. He did draw Bazaar, which is pretty much everything he could ask for. He pitched a Blightsteel Colossus. Wow. So he's playing very much a different deck. He's got Tinker Blightsteel. He's got Accumulated Knowledge. Very interesting choices our opponent has made since the last time we played him. We don't have multiple blue sources, so I'm just going to lead with this Dig Through Time. I'm going to take the whole graveyard away. And we will use red, because we do have green spells in the deck. We hit a couple good ones. We hit Cage, we hit Library. We're taking Pio for sure. And then now that it looks like he's on the Bazaar plan, I think a Cage is a reasonable pickup as well. It also fuels our Pio. I was also considering taking Library here. I think Library is a reasonable choice, but I don't actually want this game to go on for too much longer. So I think Pio Cage is like pretty sweet. It does mean that we are going to be pretty far away from Time Vault comboing while we go off, unless we crack a fetch land in the middle, which is something to keep in mind, because we do want to find the quickest and easiest way to kill him, and we took out Mana Gordra Hydra, so it's really Tinker, Blightsteel, and infinite turns. So our opponent has one card. If he activates Bazaar, he has to discard his whole hand, which is not really ideal for him. He probably wants to wait till he draws one more card. That way he can keep his best card and discard the rest. For us, we want this Pio to resolve, which is fairly likely. He has one card. And then we want to really we're probably not going to go off. You can always Tinker Blightsteel with the Cage in play, because your Tinker can get rid of Cage. So it's really not a big deal as long as you are aware of that fact. So I don't think he has a Flusterstorm in his deck, but that's really the only thing we can lose to if we cast Pio here. But because I have Brainstorm Fetch Land, I don't even mind if this gets Flusterstormed. So we're just going to go straight in for 4 cards. He has to have drawn exactly Flusterstorm off the top for this to not resolve. So, or he could have drawn blue card, had Force on top, which is also fine for us. Okay, he put it away, drew with his Bazaar. I like the way he's playing. He does have to discard 3 cards here, so he has to find exactly Fluster again. Well, again, fairly unlikely, I think. It's a meme, dude! Cunning Wish is a meme. I'm also just super tilted that they didn't put my Cunning Wish list at the 5-0. Because it wasn't 15 cards different from a normal PO list, someone who got a normal PO list got the 5-0, and I was like, oh, I'm so angry now. Alright, so in typical fashion, we drew another paradoxical outcome, so this man's dead. Alright,